So, how was your summer? Yeah, man, it was great. Caught a good tan, built some sandcastles. How was yours? Well, the barbarians are here. Oh god, they're slaughtering us all. Oh no, the crystal. They're stealing the crystal. Where are the knights?
Hey guys, want to watch me freeze this river?
I can take you for all by myself.
Hey, whose sandcastle is this?
Yo, these barbarian guys are pretty chill.
Hey, you two! Get out there and defend this kingdom! Come on then. Oh, for the love of...
Can you beat Castle Crashers as an NPC? A question nobody has ever asked, but one we will know the answer to today. If you didn't know, NPC stands for non-player character. So think of your GTA civilians, Oblivion townfolk, and that one friend who you play Fortnite with who insists you play no build since building's too sweaty now. Well, I'm sorry Jeffrey, you go play Minecraft if you can't keep up, you no skill having can't aim bitch. So for this challenge run, I will be playing exactly like a Castle Crashers NPC. But to do that, how does a Castle Crasher NPC play to begin with?
I got this! I got this!
Yeah, so after studying the NPC Grey Knights, I learned that they are completely useless. So in order to make this challenge run actually doable, we'll need to broaden our search. Now, enemy NPCs are immediately expelled from this since they can do almost everything the player can do and even some things we can't. Like, why do they get to roll? I want to do that. So after scouring every level for every friendly NPC, I came to this list of things that we are allowed to do. So we have light melee from the Grey Knights, riding from the King, blocking from the King, item pickups from the Grey Knights, climbing and jumping from the Grey Knights, beefy from the civilian, the bow and arrow from the friendly thief, instrument playing from the civilians, and finally, animal orbs are allowed since we see the veterinarian clearly using Snailbert. So now that we know what we can and can't do as an NPC, it's now time for some math. I hope you all remember how to do trigonometry. No, but for real, simply imitating an NPC isn't enough to truly be one. No. We're gonna need their stats too. So jumping on over to the Castle Crashers wiki, and for normal mode, it states that Grey Knights have a total health of 1000. And that's great, yeah, I can work with this. 1000 health on normal mode is a lot, so maybe this challenge run actually won't be too bad. Now for the damage.
I got this! I got this!
So friendly NPCs have 0 strength. Gotcha. 0 strength is actually a huge problem. I'm not just talking about the obvious here. You see, Castle Crashers has 2 calculations for damage. First, there's your strength stat, which will increase your melee damage by 1 for every level you put into it. This also includes stat points from weapons and animal orbs. The second calculation is based on your level, as for every 10 levels you earn, you will receive 1 extra damage. However, this damage increase is completely separate to your strength stat, meaning if I hit level 10 and gain 1 extra damage, I cannot reduce this damage by reducing my strength, effectively forcing me to stay level 9 for this whole challenge run. Oh, and if that's not bad enough, since I'm level 9, I can't even reach my 1000 health I'm allowed, as I can't get more skill points to then put into defense. Honestly, it makes sense as to why the Grey Knights are so weak, because this is some serious bull right now. So after some tinkering, this is the best skill spread I could come up with for this challenge. I put skill points into agility, maxing myself at 10 damage since that's how much the friendly thief does, and the rest of my limited skill points went into defense, giving me a measly 400 HP. But I'm sure I'll be fine. I just need to be careful about my healing potions. Wait, healing potions? NPCs cannot use healing potions. So starting off as a level 9 definitely helped me in the early game, but one problem I noticed right away was my light attack combo, as on every 4 hits of this combo, the enemies would fall down. This not only increased the amount of time it took to kill the enemies, since I had to wait for them to get back up, but also put me at danger in future levels as enemies can roll out of my hitbox and mess up my timings. But for the time being, I swiftly defeated all the barbarians in Home Castle and made my way to the animal nursery to pick up Snailbert, giving me a nice juicy +5 defense. After NPCing more barbarians, I made my way to the War Machine boss fight, where I didn't really have any issues. Since the War Machine is the first boss of Castle Crashers, it only has 350 HP, meaning even with no strength, this boss fight was really easy. Next was the Barbarian boss, who was a little more beefy than the War Machine, but with slow and predictable attacks, he wasn't too bad. And since I'm just a lowly NPC, I decided to not rescue the Red Princess, so the real main characters can come by and save her. I'm sure they'll be here soon. Next was the forest entrance, where I made good use of my riding capabilities, before moving into Thieves' Forest, where I had the most intense boned arrow fight Castle Crashers has ever seen. But being sore losers, the thieves ended up jumping me right after I won. Further in the level, we actually figured out who's under the thieves' mask.
Oh my god, they're so glitchy.
No, oh no, he's got a Hattie! Wait, that was Hattie! Trollmother was our third boss of the run, who could be a problem for our NPC here. Not being able to juggle or have any reliable form of crowd control could be a problem against a horde of trolls. But to my surprise, the light attack combo was actually really effective here, since I could stun lock the trolls in a larger than expected area and knock them down for damage on the Trollmother. So rinse and repeat, and the Trollmother was defeated without much issue. The next few bosses were both mechanically easy, so I didn't really struggle during the fight, but I did feel the health bars getting chunkier as I progressed. Bosses aside, where I did begin to feel the struggle was with the beefies, as it's pretty much impossible to melee them from the ground. So when it comes to beefy enemies, I was forced to either use my boned arrows or anything like enemy bombs, since melee was off of the table. Next were the slimes, who were about as fun as only using the light melee attack to defeat the slimes. Oh, wait. But after an accidental dash attack, I reset on PP Strello's cave and had the pleasure of fighting the slimes again. Not long after, I moved on to the boss fight and smacked PP with my sword until he exploded. Next was Flowery Fields, where I witnessed a beheading.
You got club step and deadlocked on GD.
Did that bee just behead him? But after NPCing my way through Wedding Crash, I once again made a fatal mistake.
I've never heard of that game.
Oh! Yeah, so twice now I have accidentally dashed into enemies, resulting in a level reset. Dashing is an attack that is performed by sprinting before your light attack, something NPCs cannot do. And since I need to move and light attack for this challenge, the chances of me accidentally dashing are pretty high. This also sucks, as there's no way to disable the attack outside of not leveling up to level 3, and well, being stuck at level 9 is already bad enough. So moving forward, I need to be a lot more careful with my movements and truly think like an NPC. But after wedding crashing a second time, I made it to the Groom boss fight, who is the second small boss of the run. And with my light attack combo, I could simply keep knocking him down and keep the Groom semi-stun locked. Rinse and repeat for multiple minutes, and the rinse and repeat. Alright, who's tearing it up in there? Yes, sir. Right away, sir. I'll clean it up, sir. After cleaning up the Cyclops mess, I hitched a ride on top of his carriage and used my bow against the giant troll. I then entered another cave where I had to fight, say it with me now, more cave slime! Oh, but the fun doesn't stop there, as immediately after defeating the best enemies in the game, this level then delivered me a whole bunch of thieves, topped off with a generous serving of cone heads. Listen, I'm no chef or anything, but the delicate combination of fast, sharp arrows blended perfectly with the explosive, spicy bombs that the coneheads threw into my face, resulting in the worst time of my life. Moving on to the Cyclops boss fight, and here I was beginning to see just how tedious this challenge run can be. As despite only having 2 attacks, the Cyclops fight is not one that you can rush. His first attack will see him slam both of his knives into the ground, dealing damage to the player whilst knocking them over. This attack cannot be blocked, instead being expertly dodged by moving a few inches out of his way. The second attack sees the Cyclops back away and throw 4 knives which can be blocked. So for this fight, all I had to do was simply hit between his attacks, sidestep out of the way, and block his throwing knives. The problem is that I only do 3 damage per melee, and well, the Cyclops boss has 800 health. And factor in the copious amounts of dodging and blocking, and this fight was extremely boring. Only ending due to the Cyclops also getting bored and just deciding to end the fight himself. So after collecting my treasure, I freed the second princess, who definitely could have escaped at any point during the fight, you little attention seeker, before exiting to the map and loading into Lava World. Now, Lava World is one of my least favourite levels in all of Castle Crashers, but only when it comes to challenge runs. Why, you may ask? Well, because of these demons. These little average British person's teeth demons are a nightmare. Not only do they have a chance of spawning in with a weapon that can crit, but they also love to spam their magic. Like, a lot. You have their relentless fireballs that will constantly get spammed when fighting like 3 other fire demons. There's the splash magic which cannot be blocked. And then my absolute favourite, the magic jump, which combines the damage from the fireballs and the shield bypass from the splash magic, resulting in the perfect you for any Castle Crashers challenge run. And literally on the first wave of this level, I was forced to reset, since the fire demons decided that I didn't need my health. And things weren't looking better on the next attempt, as once again, I had pretty much no health on the first wave of enemies. But when another reset was looking likely, the final fire demon of this wave answered all of my prayers. Me? Ask and you shall receive. Meat. Later on in the level, I realized that I forgot to buy sandwiches. So I had to painfully farm the fire demons, which took, well, a really long time. But after removing the giant door, I continued through Lava World and eventually made it to the large wave of skeletons. Now at this point in the level, I had lost almost half of my health. And with no healing in sight, I now had to take on all of these skeletons whilst fighting like an NPC. And well, I think the gameplay speaks for itself. The strat here was to run around and try and group the skeletons together for a light melee combo. And whenever I saw the opportunity, I would also pull out my bow and get some extra damage. I simply repeated this until all the skeletons were dead, leaving me with about a quarter of my health. Which especially sucked as the next wave of enemies is the most fire demons out of all waves in Lava World. And Jarvis, just play the clip. Oh, no! No, dude. So before going into Lava World again, I made sure to swap out Snailbutts for Hawkster. Hawkster is great in this challenge run, as for every enemy I defeat, Hawkster will go over and retrieve me a fruit, essentially giving me guaranteed healing throughout the entire challenge. And this animal orb swap was definitely noticeable, as by the time I defeated the skeletons for a second time, I almost had all of my health, meaning my rematch with the fire demons went a lot better, forcing the fire demons to do some pretty sneaky stuff. Wait, whoa, Jeff, whoa! What's that? I was drinking my juice. After defeating the final fire demons, I went beefy and fought the volcano boss before NPCing the fire dragon. Listen, alright, the NPCs constantly go out of bounds, so technically I am playing like an NPC, okay? It's allowed. Anyway, Next was Industrial Castle, which was way easier than Lava World. For the elevator, I simply reenacted my high school days by sitting in the corner whilst all the enemies bullied me.
But this time I fought back.
And then slowly and painfully killed the brute with my 4 damage arrows. And the industrial machine was not any better, as half of the fight was just spent waiting for the parts to actually show up. Normally, in the industrial machine boss fight, you tend to just destroy the pieces as they appear, since, you know, you're not an NPC. But for this challenge run, I was doing such little damage that all parts of the industrial machine was surviving for multiple waves, resulting in a slow and very boring boss fight. In fact, it was so dull that I completely forgot about my health and just allowed it to dwindle throughout the whole fight, almost resulting in a death.
I would have quit if I died here.
But one quick boat trip later, and next was the desert, which is the worst level in Castle Crashers. Every single enemy here sucks, and the level itself is so unnecessarily long. There's the antlions, which to defeat them in this challenge run is just so boring. Then there's the scarabs, who completely ignore my shield.
Okay, this is why I don't like blocking, because they just do stupid stuff like that. Like, what? And no.
And finally the royal guards, who actually aren't that bad, but when combined with the scarab, they just straight up suck. But if you're still somehow not convinced that the desert is a bad level, then just watch this clip.
One of you die, please. Please. Oh, okay. Oh, no!
Yeah, so to save time on me talking about it and to save time of you guys watching it, we'll just skip on over to when the desert actually gets good. So next was the alien ships, where I was slightly worried as I didn't actually know how I was gonna beat them, since the alien ships fly in the air and I don't really have any way of dealing with that. But luckily for the alien ships, I was actually able to defeat them by using the collision damage from the summoning aliens. So for the first UFO, I simply just stood underneath it and spawn killed the aliens. However, it turns out that I was just overcomplicating this whole entire boss fight. As for the second UFO, I found out that I can actually melee them, so yeah, sorry aliens. Wait, no, I'm sorry, no, please. Next was the alien ship, which was a breeze considering that all of the aliens here are one shot. So after crashing the UFO, I hijacked this camel and made my way to the sandcastle interior. Here I fought the 2 beefy royal guards by simply running around and shooting my bow when I had the space. This allowed me to move on to Sandcastle Roof, where I then spent
30 minutes.
Yeah, so this level was a nightmare for the challenge run, as all of my attacks are performed whilst I'm stood still. And well, Sandcastle Roof is just a Beyblade arena, making it extremely difficult to get any hits on these Saracens. And if I was lucky enough to get any hits, it was normally only one of them, which left me wide open for the other one. Now the Royal Guards were a slight improvement over the Saracens, but they still did arrow rain and bombs, so it wasn't really a walk in the park. And yet, despite having barely any health, I was actually able to clutch up this time. Meaning all that's left is the volleyball game, which is basically impossible to die on. Wait, why is the next clip not showing? Oh, don't tell me. No! You know, maybe I am an NPC. Next was Marsh, which is one of the levels I was really dreading for this challenge run, mainly due to the wave of skeletons that has 4 regular enemies and 4 beefies. Fighting beefies with my melee attack is impossible, and due to the enemy density and small area, running around and using my bow wasn't really a viable option either, meaning there was only one person for the job.
I first tried it with Rami.
Yeah, so Rami is still on his generational run, as anytime I'm in a pickle, I simply just go grab Rami and it's problem sorted. But the Troll Mother was next, and I thought it was a good idea to lure her behind these buildings. That way, I could try to defeat her whilst also avoiding the enemies. But I also kind of forgot that I cannot see anything whilst behind these buildings. And yeah, that was just a stupid idea. So on my next run, I ended up replacing Rami for Hawkster for that guaranteed healing, as I didn't need Rami anymore since I disabled the skeletons from spawning. So I ran back through the marsh and made it to the Troll Mother again, where I decided to focus on the enemies. That way, I could keep them stun locked with my light melee combo, whilst allowing the Troll Mother to just walk into my attacks. And after defeating the Troll Mother, I simply just cleared out the rest of Marsh and moved on to the Corn Boss, which I'll save you the suffering from watching, because this fight is not fun. So moving on to a fight that is fun, and Medusa was next. Now for this fight, I had actually brought Meowbut with me, which gives me +4 agility, increasing the damage of my bow, meaning that melee was not an option considering it only did 4 damage. So to take down Medusa, I mainly kept my distance and spammed my 14 damage arrows. At least I did, until I realized that her snake children actually did 20 damage when you hit them into her. So for the Medusa boss fight, I basically kept my distance and spammed my bow and arrow. Then when Medusa would get close to me, I would smack her with her own children. Rinse and repeat many times, and Medusa was finally defeated. Next was Full Moon, which was really easy with the beefy manipulation strat, followed by everybody's favourite ladder strat. Next was Snow World, which was a surprisingly difficult level. Outside of the fact that the Eskimos have the most base health out of all regular enemies in Castle Crashers, I was really struggling with the combination of snowballs and melee Eskimos. In Snow World, almost every wave of enemies will have a combination of Eskimos that come out to melee, and others who hide behind ice barriers and constantly spam snowballs. Meaning that if I tried to run around to avoid the melee Eskimos, then I'd most likely get hit by a snowball. But if I stay still, then I'm also going to get swarmed by the melee ones. Oh yeah, and the melee guys can also throw snowballs, because why not? This resulted in pure suffering, as no matter what I did or where I stood, I was gonna get hit. But starting with the first wave, and this one was the easiest out of them all, as there was a decent amount of space at the bottom of the screen that would avoid the snow throwing Eskimos. After defeating all the melee Eskimos, the barrier ones were much easier, as I could control when to fight them, meaning each one was a 1v1. Wave 2, however, is a lot more difficult, as we have to deal with 4 melee Eskimos and 4 barrier ones. And unlike the first wave, there's pretty much nowhere to stand that's safe. The best I could come up with was behind this group of trees, which gave me a tiny invisible barrier, allowing me to have a tiny amount of control over the melee enemies, whilst also just barely avoiding the snowball. The third and most difficult wave added a 5th Eskimo snowball thrower, which ended in disaster. Yeah, so after dying on the third wave, it took me another 30 minutes of attempts just to get back to it again. And, well... No! So after being defeated by Snow World, I decided to leave it for that night and come back on a fresh day. And thank God I did, because when I returned, we had come up with a strat that massively helped us for Snow World. So the biggest problem with this level is dealing with both the melee and snowball Eskimos. But what if there was a way to not deal with them at the same time? You see, the melee and ice barrier Eskimos both work on different trigger points, meaning I can aggro one of the groups without aggroing the other. So on the first wave of Snow World, I slowly shuffled through the level with my shield in order to not pass the melee Eskimo trigger. And with my bow and arrow, I was able to hit the ice barriers, destroying them and aggroing the snowball Eskimos. I then simply killed them one by one before finally triggering the melee Eskimos. Wave 2 is the complete opposite, as for this one, you're able to trigger the melee Eskimos first without triggering the snowballs. And as long as I stayed to the left of the screen, I could safely move around without having to worry about snowballs. And for the third and hardest wave, there's actually no trick here. This one was just skill and maybe a little bit of luck. Alright, okay, it was all luck. I just got really lucky here. But the rest of Snow World wasn't really that bad, and I even got free healing from this candy. Next was the Frost King, which was the second worst boss fight of this whole run. The floor is slippy, so combat's a nightmare. Almost all of Frost King's attack frees you, and oh yeah, the guy has 50,000 health.
Editing reckless here. So for some reason, I began crashing out over insane mode Frost King when this challenge run was done on normal mode. So I guess insane mode Frost King is just traumatized me this much. Anyway, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to support the channel. Use code RECKA for 10% off your gamer subs and cheeky orders. And now back to the video.
I'm just gonna skip over it, and yes, I did die, by the way. Okay, I'm throwing it out there, I died to the Frost King, alright? Hour and 50 minutes, ridiculous. Get on to the next boss. Next was the Painter boss fight, which is one of my favorite fights in the game. But for this challenge run, he was one of my least. That's because to do any damage to the Painter boss, you have to destroy his paintings. Normally an easy task in an average playthrough. I mean, you can just tank them with healing potions. But come closer. No. Even closer. I don't have healing potions. Meaning that for every single painting, I had to use my 10 damage bow and arrow to destroy them, resulting in an hour boss fight. But hey, at least I had bipolar bear, so it probably shaved off 20 minutes. Why do I do this? Yeah, so there's just not much to talk about this fight. I mean, it wasn't really hard, it was just really boring and time consuming. But if you want the gist of it, spend 10 minutes destroying the paintings with my bow, and then get some very miserable damage on the painter. Rinse and repeat until phase 2, and the fight is pretty much over. Next was the Undead Cyclops, who was actually a breath of fresh air when compared to the previous boss fights. I mean, just having a boss that doesn't take over an hour was a blessing. But for the actual fight, all I really had to do was rely on my bow and arrow, hence why I brought me Albert. Whenever I could damage the Undead Cyclops, I simply just shot my arrow and avoided his attacks. And during the immune phase, I did originally PP ground strats, but after seeing my health slowly dwindle down, I resulted in just running around. So yeah, thank you Undead Cyclops for not taking an hour. Now it's finally time. Time for the boss fight that's always the hardest in any challenge run I do. That of course being the necromancer. Now throughout this entire challenge run, I've had to deal with problems ranging from different enemies. And now I've got to face them all in the same room. That means projectile magic from the fire demons, bombs from the cone heads, arrows from the thieves. Everything we've struggled with so far is in this one room. And if that's not bad enough, there's also a second wave which introduces 3 beefies that I cannot do any melee against. And you also have to remember, I have 0 healing potions for this whole fight. But at least every enemy is guaranteed to drop fruit, so that's good I guess. Anyway, if you don't believe me on how hard the necromancer is, then have a look at my first attempt.
Oh, stop with the jump magic. No! What?
Was that? Yeah, so I kept going for multiple attempts across a few hours, changing up my playstyle with each attempt. I initially tried Rami for the crowd control, I tried using Piggy for more healing from the fruit, Spiny for more defense, but no matter what I tried, nothing was working. That's why I needed to do something drastic in order to complete this challenge run, and that's math. No, I'm not joking. So at the beginning of this challenge run, we had to do some maths in order to determine the NPC stats. But if you also remember, I couldn't fully utilize the NPC max stats since I had to keep myself below level 10. That meant for this whole challenge run, I was rocking 400 HP, when I was actually allowed up to 1000. And from my experience across all of my necromancer fights, I found that the bow and arrow was optimal, since melee was pretty much useless in the second wave. And it just so happens that going to level 10 does not increase my bow damage, meaning I can go past level 10 in order to get my 1000 HP without affecting my NPC bow damage. So after farming to level 19, I was able to get a maximum health of 826. And since my defense at this point was max, the only way I could get to 1000 was by getting plus 3 HP every level up, which I was just not about to do that would take forever. So yeah, after doubling my health and losing my melee, I went back into the necromancer fight where I had some awful RNG with the enemy brute. Like, bro was on demon time, he was coming for me. But my next attempt went a whole lot better, as instead of using Meowbert for increased bow damage, I instead opted for Rami, who will help me with the crowd control. This was especially important as my main playstyle was running from side to side of the room, creating some distance from the enemies and spamming my bow. So after having a really easy first phase, the second phase rolled around where Rami was on demon mode. Yeah, so bro saved me from the brute I don't even know how many times, and also killed the beefy barbarian, which thinned down the enemies and allowed me to select my targets more carefully, resulting in the death of the brute and completing the second wave. This led me on to the necromancer boss fight, who is normally the easiest part, since, you know, he's just one guy. And if you're meleeing, you can literally just juggle him and it's like not even a fight. But unfortunately, I didn't realize that the bow doesn't knock him over. Instead, he just like eats the arrow or something. Now this would have ended in disaster, as I had no real way of getting away from the necromancer and doing some consistent damage. But of course, like every other challenger I do, Rami came in with the absolute clutch, as he was able to knock over the necromancer, creating the necessary space for me to shoot an arrow. But after 15 minutes of running around and shooting arrows, the necromancer was finally defeated, and I just managed to get by with a little bit of health. I swear, I will protect Rami until my final breath. But speaking of finale, and the evil wizard is the last boss of this run, who is just really boring. There are 6 total phases to this fight, and each one takes a ridiculous amount of time. For example, the crystals took me a whole 10 minutes just to do, and the second phase was just waiting half the time, since I didn't have any magic for the blue bubble. Things took a turn for the worse on the third phase when I accidentally recovery jumped, which is not allowed, meaning I had to do the crystal and second phase all over again. Oh gee, I sure do hope I don't recovery jump again.
There's a lot of balls. A lot of balls! No, 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 I'm going bad. I'm going bad. No, 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 no.
After finally locking in, I was able to complete the third phase, fourth phase, fifth phase, and finally the final phase of the evil wizard fight. And I promise I'm not joking when I say the hardest phases of the evil wizard fight was the ball phases. Like, all the other phases were not too bad, as I could just like jump and do damage and stuff, but the ball phases was having me stressed. Anyway, with one final shot from my bow, the evil wizard was defeated as I landed on the crystal and saved the final princess. I rode that sucker all the way back to Horn Castle as I prepared to throw the celebration party for the actual main characters.
Woo! What a holiday, guys.
Man, I hope we didn't miss too much.
Hey, wait a minute, guys. Why is there a party going on?
Huh. Beats me. Hey, Grey Knight over there, you mind fetching us some drinks? Yeah, make yourself useful. Go do something. Let's party!